Welcome to the Skeptic and the Changemaker, a podcast about the future of work and the bold decisions leaders make to do things differently. I'm your host, Susan Chen, the founder and the CEO of Cogrow.
So, VJ, it's so bizarre we're sitting here today because we actually worked together in Gojek in Indonesia for 2 years, but we've never met.
Yeah.
But I know the great work that you've done, right? I've seen the amazing videos that you have done for the GoVet drivers to Indonesia, and then that really cool video of you sending food to Rich Brian. But the fact that we didn't meet tells me something about creatives and their position in tech companies. So today we're going to talk about debunking this idea of tech is king. You know, what if focusing solely on tech is actually crippling the startup ecosystem and the startup itself?
Yeah.
So tell us a bit more about you first.
My name is VJ. I come from Malaysia, and I've been in the advertising business. Well, I started off as a web designer. So I was designing websites and coding websites for like the first 6-7 years of my career. And then at that point, the coding language changed. And there was new languages and new softwares that came in. And I was like, oh man, either I really got and learn something new again, or I do something else because I'm a designer, I studied design, art, graphics. And then I saw a TV commercial. I was like, damn, this looks easy. I can come up with an idea and someone can actually shoot it for me. So I don't have to lift my finger to code or do anything. So I thought that was quite easy, cool. So I took the easy way out. Got a job in an advertising agency, and I was doing advertising for like a lot of years, right? So I started off in Malaysia, and I went to all the big agencies, and I was in Ogilvy, TBW, BBDO, all the big ones. And along the way, I went to Samsung, Chill. I was in Thailand for a while. I just went around Southeast Asia, and one part of my career, I was doing a lot of work for this brand called Nando's in Malaysia, and we were like the kings.
Is that the chicken?
Yeah, the grilled chicken.
Oh my God, I love Nando's.
It's so good. Yeah,
so good.
Everyone loves a good cheeky Nando's. But yeah, so I got famous. Me and my team got famous for doing work for Nando's. We were like the social kings even before social hijack was a thing, and we were making fun of politicians in Malaysia, and we got really famous. We became like the cult brand in Malaysia, and people loved us. And won a ton of awards. I won my Cannes Lion and all of that. Got really bored, and someone, I think was the CMO of Gojek, he approached me. He's been trying to hire, he tried to hire me for like a year. I said no. And then it came to a point like, actually, I'm bored of this. I want to leave the country. I want to get out of advertising and join a tech company. This is interesting, right? And then Nadim and Kevin interviewed me, the founders, and they basically got me to come down to Jakarta and check out Gojek and Jakarta, because at that point I hadn't really seen what Gojek is. And then I was just shocked when I went to Indonesia. Gojek was kind of like the heartbeat of the nation. It moved the nation, and I thought that was quite huge. And one of the most important things, I asked a driver actually, what do you think of Gojek? And he just said amazing things. And for me, that was a show of like, oh, this company is a good company, and it's a good brand, and it's a good app, because the drivers say good things about you, and usually you would not get. You get people who will have complaints and stuff like that, but they love the brand, they love the founders, and so I joined. Yeah, that's kind of my story. And then along the way, I think because of the Rich Brian piece of work, someone sent it to a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, and he hired me. So I was brought in to set up VaynerMedia in APAC. So I was staff number 4, built it to 300 in 3 years. And then he was like, what can I do to keep you here? I said, I want to travel the world. So he sent me to London. So I was the global ECD, kind of the ECD for EMEA and global operations based out of London for a couple of years. And I just got bored of, working for someone. I've never tried doing something on my own. So now here I am, just set up my creative consultancy in Singapore, and it's called Ballsy, and I'm having fun working with a whole bunch of people.
Well, welcome to the club of entrepreneurship.
Oh yeah, man.
How does it feel?
I tell this to all my friends. I'm the poorest I've ever been, but I'm also the happiest I've ever been.
I hear you. I hear you. And then I think coming to a part of our life, it is much more about just paycheck, but really the
Yeah.
impact. But I want to come back to this tech is king. And so you went from chicken to tech and then working with Gary, which is a very different personality, right? I've seen the ways that he communicate, which tells me sometimes it shouldn't be about the product. It's about the storytelling. So tell me a bit more about our obsession in this world about tech talent. And I know this, right? Being in HR, they get paid more.
Yeah.
They get special treatments. They have exception. Tech is king it's not just about product. It comes through in the workplace, the way that we hire, the way we talk about promotions, the way we talk about power.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit more about your experience trying to balance that.
I think it's based, what I'm going to tell you is based on my experience from the advertising scene where the creatives were the rock star. So I was in
Very
advertising
madman.
agencies. Yeah,
Yes.
correct. Very madman. In fact, when I went to get a US visa, I had a letter that said I had to go to New York to judge an award show, a creative award show. And then she looked at it, she's like, oh, so it is like Mad Men. I said, yeah, exactly. So what's your role in Mad Men? I said, I would be Don Draper, but minus the drinking and the womenizing. So she laughed and she just approved it straight away. So I got my visa because I made her laugh. But yeah, so I come from advertising, and it's the industry where creatives were the talent, and you were the rock stars. You would rock up, go for like 5-star treatment in hotels, go for trips. Those were the days, lah. But coming in from that environment to a tech company where creative people were like, why the hell are you here? Like, we don't even need you, where the engineers and the tech guys were the rock stars. They didn't need a creative department. But we slowly showed a lot of people in Gojek, but also the whole country, the whole nation, that a good storytelling piece or getting a strong brand purpose and a brand personality makes a lot of difference. It gives tech a soul and a heart, and people will start caring about the brand and start loving it. And I believe, like what we did in the creative team in Gojek, we gave it a lot of heart and soul, and we made it kind of like a cult brand in Indonesia and beyond. So yeah, I think creativity helps. But coming from that environment where you're a rock star and no one cares what you do, and to a place where no one cares what you do, and people not even like, you're not important, marketing, creative, that's the last. All we need is like a good tech or good product, and it'll sell itself. It's tough because there's a million products out there, and if you're not telling your story and if you're not having a strong personality, no one's gonna care about you.
Well, being a skeptic, let me ask you, right? Because you talk about building a brand and story personality. I mean, before you joined, Gojek had a story. Gojek had personality, right? We talked about how it impacts the Indonesia society. How do we think about moving people around in a different way, bringing in people from the informal economy to much more formal onto the platform, right? They have an arena to actually do business. So a part of me think they had a story, and the story that also the experience, Rich Brian's a great example. It's almost feel like a very different type of warm personality versus a little bit flamboyant, right? I mean, it was really cool. Don't get me wrong. But where is the personality, authentic personality versus to like social hijacking to this idea of going viral and doing something a little bit shocking? Like, help me understand
No,
that.
you're right. I think they had a personality and they had a story, but the story wasn't told properly to get the different audiences who have moved on from their story. The audiences and the people change very fast. They change the way they like brands. They change the way they consume brand ads and advertising. In fact, they don't even watch advertising. So how do you attract people if you keep telling the same old story? And I think there was a fatigue of a story when I came in, and I realized the fatigue was there and it was boring, and we needed to kind of like just change the game and just change the personality a bit. Not, I wouldn't say flamboyant was the thing, but one of the things that Nadeem, when I joined, who's the founder, one of the founders, he was like, dude, like, I hired you to do one thing, make this brand cool. Like, can you make this brand cool? And it sounds easy as a question, but it's one of the hardest things to do to make a brand cool. and we took a while to get to a point where we became the talk of town. But the aim was that it's a snowball effect, right? You start small, you start certain things, you try different things, different personalities, or even different ideas, and then you get a hit, and from that hit, it snowballs into something bigger and bigger. The first hit we had in Gojek I remember, was this. It was Malay. I think it was Asian Games, and Grab had bought over all the media spaces, and it was also coinciding with National Day, Indonesian National Day, and we knew we were kind of fucked. We were like, oh shit, man, like all the media spaces bought. Like, what are we gonna do? We want to say Happy National Day, or tell that to people, but there's no space. So we had to come up with a really interesting idea where we won the heart of the nations through just we had a brainstorm among all the creative and marketing team members, and one question I asked all of them was, what makes you proud as an Indonesian? So everyone had a whole bunch of things, right? Because we're going to play around. We're the Indonesian brand. We're going to win the hearts of Indonesians. And someone mentioned there was a 13-year-old kid who won a Grammy. And I was like, damn, that's quite cool. Like, I never knew that.
In Indonesia?
In Indonesia. An Indonesian kid who won a Grammy Award, and he was 13 years old. That's crazy. That's amazing. Can you find other stories, or whether it's people, whether it's brand, that someone in Indonesia who made Indonesia famous in their industry around the world? And a lot of things came back. Kopiku was used by NASA and space.
Yes.
Different stories like that. Then they said, that's the idea. We're going to go out as a brand, not talking about us, but we're going to thank other Indonesian people or other Indonesian brands who made Indonesia proud. And so we thanked everyone. We bought giant billboards, and we did the flower billboards.
I do remember that.
Yeah, the flower billboards. And that was the
that.
first one that kind of got the whole nation talking about, oh man, did you see what Gojek did? And that was the point. That's what you want, I think, with great storytelling. It is not you want the people to go out and tell that story, not you telling the story and no one cares about the story.
Yeah.
I think Gojek prior to that had a lot of that. They had a good story. They had a story, but it was not a story that people would talk to other people about. But that point was when everyone was like, oh, did you see the billboard, the flower billboard? They hung the giant flower billboard.
There was a giant one. I remember driving into right in front of the Alpha Pasaraya. There was also a big one. So
it became the talk of town, and that's how we kind of beat. It was a David versus Goliath thing, right? And we beat Goliath with the millions of money that we had. We didn't have that much, but with crazy ideas, we kind of made the brand the talk of town.
So storytelling, again, if this idea that tech is king and the product is more important, storytelling is often the afterthought. When does storytelling become too much? Give me an example when we talk too much, the story is too much, and maybe the product is a bit meh.
Yeah, there's always a problem. I think there has been a few instances out there when the storytelling, I wouldn't give tech examples, I'll branch it out to different examples, right? Where the storytelling was so amazing and they focused so much on that, but the product just was that's the downfall,
right?
Correct. That's the downfall. I mean, the greatest example for that, like I said, it's not a tech example, it's Fire Festival. It had all the conversation.
Just like blunt lying, no?
Yeah. And trust me, there's a lot of products out there that kind of do that. They talk a big game. They think the formula of like, oh, great marketing will get us and great storytelling will get us all the way. You still have to have a good product at the end of the day, because it'll only sustain you for a while. But the moment it comes out, they're like, oh man, all the celebrities talking about it. And then when they try it or they use it, then they're like, oh man, it's such a letdown.
Yeah.
And then it goes on social and you're dead. You're close to dead, right? But there are examples of when great storytelling worked with a product and the product was just, and I'll give this example, right? The biggest example now in the marketing industry or the branding world is Liquid Death.
Mm-hmm.
It is a can of fucking water.
Okay.
And water had, honestly, water is the most uncoolest thing. It's in front of us. It's like oxygen. We don't remember it. We don't think about it. But this brand came in and made water cool. And how they did it was they turned a can of water to feel like a beer. and so it looks like heavy metal. The design is like it's like heavy metal design, the font, the graphics, and then when you hold it, you feel like you're holding a can of beer, but you're just drinking water. Imagine branding water and having an investment. I mean, on the first day they launched Liquid Death. That's what, about 8,000 people who signed up, and it's just like nothing. They just dropped it. It's like, oh, we're just launching a can of water. And then they had a very strong personality. They made ads that looked like beer ads, or they had grandmas playing heavy metal music. They were just crazy. And they got an investment of like 27 billion or something like that for a can of water, which is insane.
It's insane,
Yeah.
right? I think the world around us is going a little bit insane.
Of course.
So, if we even think about tech is still all the rage, even though it's a little bit of a tech winter right now, right? How much are people then thinking that's your story to actually overcome some of the maybe lesser, advancement on the technology side, even on AI, right? Right
Yeah.
now, there's a lot of repackaging of that.
Yeah.
So is there going to be a world where we shift away from tech as king and really start thinking a bit more holistically? Maybe the storytelling, the branding being the king. Tell us more.
I mean, it's a tough one. Like there's a couple of examples here as well, right? Like you're going into AI, and I mean, Chat GPT was kind of like the first there, and everyone's so used to it that when something a lot more powerful comes, example, I wouldn't say more powerful, but Gemini, if you can't brand it, you can't.
Yeah.
If you don't brand it properly, no one's going to use you, and you might have a superior product, but if someone's adopted something earlier and it's become part of their life, like ChatGPT, how is someone like Gemini going to come in and say, I'm way better, or try me even when people are not going to try you? I think with great storytelling, you can kind of do that. Example here is Airbnb. At that point, couch surfing was it was not new. A lot of people did couch surfing. There was different
It's like
couch
Craigslist, but then
Yeah,
I worry about
Craigslist,
serial
stuff.
killers,
Correct. Yeah. So you had a lot of other options, but Airbnb came in and told this amazing story where, home is where your heart belongs. And they had this whole thing where you belong everywhere. There was the story that they told, and it was a powerful story the tech was decent, but that whole story of belonging everywhere and anywhere was so powerful and emotional that people cared about the brand and the product, and it did well
Yeah.
because of that, right? So I think, again, like great storytelling coupled with a great product is
Good enough product, maybe.
good enough, yeah. Not
Good
not
enough
a great,
product.
yeah, good enough, a decent product, right?
Yeah.
Not the Fire Festival, basically.
Yes.
It is something that actually works. If you tell a good story, it can be and if you have a strong brand purpose, and you have a strong story to tell, I think it's. I mean, another example is Duolingo, right? I think the whole purpose that they have, studying is so boring, but if you make studying fun and you show that, people will like your app and people will like studying, because it's such a it's
Yeah.
from small you were brought up feeling that, oh man, I hate going to school, I hate studying, but here comes an app and they make learning into a game. They turn learning into a game.
Yeah.
And the ads and the storytelling is all about, man, the mascot is just on social media. The personality on social media is so crazy that people talk about it. And they infiltrate different markets, different languages, and different cultures in such a smart way that people are like, man, I love this mascot, I love this brand. And I don't need to study French, but I'm still going to do it because it's fun, and they make it seem fun,
I'm going to put you on the spot because you talk about Gemini. How would you make Gemini cool? It's a time for ballsy to be bold. How would you make Gemini cool?
I don't know, man.
How would you make an AI, right? Just again, right? There's so many AI tools.
I think I would give it a bit more emotions, and I would, if I was given the chance of rebranding, or like just telling a story about Gemini, I would find different stories, real life stories where Gemini has helped a doctor solve something, or a patient overcome something, or someone going through something, and using Gemini as a life partner to solve and to clear that. I think would be interesting stories to tell.
Yeah.
Like real world examples, but very human, very emotional.
Yeah.
But I would try to do it in different passion points, like
Yeah.
different reasons and different personalities. For me, the most important thing is you can't put one thing out and think that, oh, that's the
Yeah.
right storytelling. You have to find what is right for you. So doing different styles, different stories, different personalities. One could be comedy, one could be cool, one could be a music video, and then the algorithms of today, all the platforms, they actually they go. Your FYP is very different than my FYP, right? I consume very differently, so our algorithms are different.
Yeah.
So if you want a brand to get into different people's algorithm, you need to branch out and try different things. Like I would try Gemini AI. What does it do for a chef? What does it do for a musician? What does it do for this? And then when I tell those different stories and different personalities, it will hit different people.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can kind of see, oh, this one resonates. This one's done well. So we should focus on this community and build a community for that. For me, it's not a direct answer, but there's a science behind it,
Yeah.
and there's also the emotions behind it. So I would give it more emotions. I would build more passion points and find right for Gemini.
But being a skeptic here, right? I agree we could connect the chicken or tech to something emotional. I almost feel like with AI, we don't want to connect that to emotion because AI, if anything, people are afraid of that emotion connection. Although I read recently that the number one use case of AI is companionship, or people want to have a conversation, which being in HR,
I honestly use it as a creative partner at times.
Yeah.
Because I'm alone sometimes and I want to brainstorm and banter with someone.
Yeah.
Back in the day in agency, I would have like 10, 15 or 100 people around me that I can brainstorm. But now sometimes I'm alone at home and I want to brainstorm with someone. AI becomes my companion to banter.
Yeah.
And I can feed it certain things and it'll feed me back certain things. And that sparks certain things for me. But you're right. I think people using it as companion. I think that's a great, like, somebody's going to get married to an AI one of these days.
Oh my God. Is that really good storytelling? I guess my point is, right, it will have the shock factor.
Yeah.
It will do what it needs to do to promote whatever the AI tool that we, that the brand is going to tell. But how much is that just going to frick the society? And we're like, really, is this what we need? We talk about tech being king, and we talked about now are we going on the other side?
You've got movies that do that in a good way and in a Black Mirror kind of way.
Yes.
It's great. It's also storytelling. It's interesting, man. I've got friends who feed all their health records to their
the digital twin that people are creating.
Yeah. And people use it in different ways. So depends. Some go deep into it, some don't. But our job, like my job as a storyteller, is to kind of sell that and tell people this is the way, but how you use it is up to you, right? Humans will use it for good or for bad, that's normal.
So if we come back to our topic about our obsession with tech, right? If we are thinking about even AI being part of it, like, is actually tech crippling? That obsession with tech is crippling, maybe not just tech startup, but even our society. How do we operate, right? And storytelling being the key, the breakthrough. How do we find that balance in the future?
Interesting one, right? I think human beings, it's normal, right? You will get deep into certain things. And then at a point, you'll find a way to kind of, I'm going to take myself out of this and go back to nature. So it always becomes like a cycle. And then you go back to deep into something, your passion or your tech or your app or whatever. I think it's just going to be a cycle of people adopting something, believing in it like it's religion, and then moving out of it and going back to basics or nature and then coming back into it. It's always a cycle, right? There's always a trend, something new, something different. When .com came, everything was .com websites. People were building that. When apps came, everything was app. Everything was providing a service, something to make people's lives easier. And then now with AI, it's another cycle of like, oh, everything's AI. AI is going to save the world and help us all. And then you get moved into what's next from there. which I don't know if I can predict all those kind of things, but I can predict the cycle. You can see, anyone can see that cycle, right? People go in and out, go deep into, and then come back into basics, and then go back into something else. That's just human nature, and that's just how the world works.
Would you go back into tech?
Definitely, because I always say this. I think Gojek was one of the most. I think it's probably the most fun I had as a creative,
Ah.
because I had to prove everything to all the departments and also the audiences that creative storytelling, brand purpose, brand personality can make a difference to your product or to your brand, or to your app or whatever, right? And it was the most fun I had because it was complex. There was 19, 20 different sub products inside,
Yeah.
and there was so much data to that. Data inspires me to think of other stories, and I found that super interesting.
Yeah.
Why would someone, and then even the ability to, in your app, to find out, oh, people like this color more than that color, or people out of Jakarta prefer to use this, and in Jakarta they resonated with this line a lot better, and we could have all that data, so it sharpens creativity, and it makes it. I found it super inspiring to be in a place like Gojek, and I would definitely do a gig like that, anytime.
But let's double down on this a little bit. Again, as a skeptic, is that I agree, right? There is that moment of being really cool, being the talk of conversations. But now, years later, some of these gets forgotten, right? A brand, the experience they've gone through in that point in time, that storytelling doesn't always stick.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, I can say tech should be king because tech stays. When people go, when people leave, the tech stays.
The brand,
So-
the app stays,
Yeah.
but the products change along the way. There's new products. You take old products and you sharpen it, only because that is human nature. You get bored of certain things after a while, and if you don't find new ways to communicate, or new ways to talk to people, or new ways to make it resonate with people, you'll be forgotten, because there'll be a new shiny toy that comes out every day or every month. If you don't stay relevant, and I just don't say that about advertising alone, I say that about tech as well. It's the same. Gojek is I feel it's kind of forgotten. At that point, we did amazing ads and communication and had a strong personality, but it dropped and forgot itself along the way, and people just move on to the next brand. People will still remember. Like, I know some ads, some advertising for different brands from the 60s, 80s, 70s, 80s,
Yeah.
90s. You still remember something iconic. Like the Rich Brian one is still talked about.
Yes.
And a lot of people will always come and tell me that, oh man, Gojek just, you all used to do some crazy stuff. You all don't do it. They don't do anything like this anymore.
Yeah.
Not
The
that.
keyword is used to, right?
Yeah. So you need to stay relevant, and you need to keep doing things that are relevant and becomes the talk of town. You can't just drop the ball and, oh, I'm gonna live on something. Like a musician as well, right? Like you two could say that, oh, I'm still gonna live on this old song, or Coldplay can say that I'm gonna just live on Yellow and just ride it out for the next 30, 40 years. But if you want to stay relevant, you got to change your genre sometimes. You got to try new things. You got to collaborate.
Some of the classic, like Mariah Carey,
Yeah.
has their one song and
Correct.
that goes on forever
It comes
and
back
ever.
every Christmas. It comes back every
Exactly,
Christmas.
right?
So you got both, right? Like, example is that the Rich Brian gets talked about. When I tell people, I come to, oh, did you do the Rich Brian one? Oh man,
Yeah.
I remember that when it came out. So it becomes the talk even until later on, but you still want to be relevant. Like,
Yeah.
you still need to do something new.
Yeah.
And I gave Coldplay as an example because they could have just sat and created more songs with Yellow. Instead, they went and made a song with BTS, and they
They
tried to
did
be
a
relevant.
comeback, didn't they? I feel like
Yeah.
they figure out the way of comeback through different partnerships. They're kind of cool again.
Yeah. I mean, cool is I don't know.
It's very
Cool is the right word. Subjective. Cool is subjective.
Yeah.
But you try different ways and to stay relevant. I
Yeah.
think that's important, right? You refresh yourself. Even in tech, you want to upgrade your certain functions, or
Yeah.
add this element, or do this, and then the worst I hate the worst is promotions and vouchers, and then
oh
it becomes a
gosh.
battle of promotion and
Yes.
vouchers, and there's just no inspiration. There is no um, people do love a good discount, right? But a
Of
good
course.
discount, they will never remember the discount that they had yesterday. But people will remember what you made me feel
Yeah.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
You made me feel, you made me laugh, you made me happy, but they won't remember I got a $2 discount from 5 years ago. They won't remember that. So I think that's yeah.
But I mean, even the Rich Brian story, they remember the Rich Brian story, but it's not necessarily linking to the product itself, right? So if we're really thinking about, again, going back to product, tech is king, and then also the storytelling, I'm skeptical of this idea of social hijacking because it feels very in the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
It's
Tell me a
trend-
bit more the thought process of social hijacking, and then how does we think about sustainability? And I also, the reason I ask is I worry about, there's so much noise. If everyone is being cool and everyone is doing social hijacking, we're constantly
Yeah.
being fed these,
Yeah.
noises into
and you
our
also
system.
become a trend follower.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a cycle to this, right? The first few hours when the trend comes out or picks up, you have to do it, because if you wait another 5-6 hours, you become the lame old boomer uncle
yeah.
who's on Facebook, who's seeing it. So you hit the wrong wave, right? You want to hit the right wave, but doing it is tiring. And I've done it in my life, like I said before, Nando's. Like if you ask me to do it now, I'm like, man, I will do it if we are fast enough, and if there's a reason that's connected to your product or your brand. If there's a right way to embed and it means something to someone, it puts a not just a smile, but then okay, this is quite smart. There's a smart
Yeah.
twist to it. I see where the brand is or the product is coming in and hijacking this conversation. Then it's cool. But if you're doing it constantly,
Yeah.
it can be really tiring. There is an example of a brand that does it
Tell
really
me.
well.
I want to know.
There is one in London, and they are basically kind of like your Harvey Normans. It's called
Okay.
it's called Curry's.
Okay.
It's a electronics store.
Yeah.
But they on TikTok, they are, as for me, it's them and Duolingo who are really good on TikTok. So basically, they just do any trend, but really fast, and they find a funny way to embed their products in. Yeah, go check it out on TikTok. They're quite funny.
But I guess there's a consistency around being funny, or like a brand needs to
Yes.
speak to some kind
Correct.
of consistency.
The personality
right?
is always the same.
Yeah, yeah.
And it works for their personality. They just have to do it all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What do you think about Apple? Because I feel like from outside in, I feel like if I think about both tech and storytelling in a quite balance, and I speak from outside in, being a skeptic, I'm like, it's so hard to balance the two. From outside, it feels like Apple seems to be a great example of that balance. What do you think?
I mean, the tech or the hardware is gorgeous as always. Amazing design, intuitive UX, UI, and stuff like that. So you got a product side of it, which is amazing. They're not the most advanced product. So if you go to other Android phones like your Pixels and stuff like that, they have far more crazier, better tech than Apple.
Yeah.
But with that, when you are at that level already, like you said, you got balance, storytelling. Like when they started Apple, the Think Different, that was when for me, the height of Apple was actually at that point when they first came in with Think Different, because they were a challenger back then, and they had a very different design hardware. In that case, a Mac, and they had the personality of a game changer and a challenger, which was very powerful. And Think Different was, you were trying to break away from the IBM to get people to go buy this new, and that was like the best moment of Apple. But because of that, they've always had the balance of that was, I think that had a crazy good balance.
Yeah.
Now,
Even the logo was different, right?
Yeah.
It was these beautiful, colorful. Oh my God,
Correct.
now everyone knows my age because I remember the colorful logo. I remember the colorful Macintosh.
Yeah, everybody wanted one, but you couldn't afford one.
Yeah, and because IBM was a very serious, proper. So interesting you talk about the challenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that spirit was very powerful for them. Along the way, they're no more the challenger. They're the number one, the biggest. but they still maintain some good storytelling, and putting product at the center, like this whole shot on iPhone campaign, and using the
Yes.
product as the
That's
advertising.
pretty cool.
That's very powerful. And I mean, the latest one, you see Pedro Pascal dancing around with his iPods. Nothing about storytelling, but it's just a gorgeous looking ad. And they're using a talent who's quite in. Pedro Pascal finds a
He's
way
been
always.
doing a few different
Yeah.
advertising.
Even today,
Yeah.
like he went around with a T-shirt to support dolls and the trans community, which is powerful. I think he's always got a message to say. I think people who do it smart, in a smart way. So using him was quite smart. It's not amazing storytelling, but it's smart. Person to
Association.
an association or
Yeah.
collaboration. The other one is on the running shoes.
Oh,
Have you seen
yeah.
On with Zendaya?
Yes,
I
yes,
think
yes,
that's quite
yes.
smart as well. Getting a person who's On is very smart at they built an early community with the running community. I think the things that they did, because I had friends who were in the running community, and a lot of things they did to support the running community. They were quite smart to build from that community and then branch out after. Then they had Roger Federer, I mean, as one of the founding
Yes.
partners or whatever, backers, and he had the tennis community. And then now they've got Zendaya, who's got the ears and eyes of all the Gen Zs.
Yeah.
And you're basically finding ways to tap into different communities. It's quite smart. But yeah, from Apple to On, interesting.
So actually, you talk about community. That's an interesting one, right? Tell me about what you think about these sort of community almost as part of extension of brand strategy, right? I'm always curious about, say, the likes of Lululemon,
Yeah.
right? Bring the community, come into the store to do yoga, have an experience. When do we also have to start going, are these communities as authentic of an experience we want to build? I think authenticity is a piece where I'm becoming really skeptical
Yeah.
across.
Not all
and
communities,
non-tech.
you're right, not all communities are authentic.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge nowadays is building a strong community and an authentic community, like how On did. I won't even go to Lululemon. Can I say I despise the brand?
Oh my God, tell me.
No, I
I
just-
would
I just
like
don't
to
like
tell-
it as a brand.
I want
Because
to know.
I just think it's I just people
I have mixed
treat
feelings.
it like religion, and they just, some of them, like, they pretend to be into Pilates or yoga, and then they're wearing it just to attract the opposite.
The okay.
Yeah,
the
I don't know.
attention.
Yeah, the
Okay.
attention. If you go to Jew Chat every Saturday and Sunday, it's a Lululemon heaven. Jew Chat should brand like sorry, Lululemon should brand and own Jew Chat. It's so funny that say that. Okay, I know we're jumping at moving on to different topics, but yeah, building a community is super important. I think everyone, like the On example is that you find a niche community or someone that you really care that would benefit from your product, but don't do it to sell the product.
Yeah.
Do it to bring that community up, because you are right. The way you said it, community becomes your brand extension,
Yeah.
and it's such a powerful thing. I think Gojek had it really smart early on, where they could have gone and done everything for the consumers, but Nadeem really focused on, I could see that
The drivers.
with the drivers.
Yeah.
And that is your community, and you're doing this brand is there because you're supporting these people's lives and their livelihood. And that became very powerful when he built the community that way, right? On did the same. There's brands that do it sometimes where you get the community right, and they will die for your brand, like they will stand in front of a gun for you, things like that, because you build the community in
Yeah.
a more real and authentic way. I think it's such a powerful thing.
Yeah. And I think authenticity is the hard one. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, it's also, I'm getting very skeptical whenever you get invited to certain community. You're like, is this a real community, or is this
Yeah.
is actually a brand ambassador community? Because I actually think it's quite different. An
Yeah.
actual experience-based, learning-based community versus like a brand ambassador
Yeah,
community.
true, very
Right.
true. I think the influencer scene has also popped off quite a bit, and you don't know who to believe and who to
No.
follow, and you think you like someone and what they stand for, and
Yeah.
suddenly some other person a brand comes and pays them $1 million, and they're saying the total opposite. Then you're like, damn it, this person's not authentic anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not an easy one. I think the key is that really you need your brand ambassadors, you need your kind of like your influencers, but it has to be real to a point, and it has to be, like you said, authentic, right, to a point, and a real connection.
Yeah.
Like I've seen Zendaya wearing the On shoes um, when she's out in a red carpet
Yeah.
before. Like there
Yeah.
is she's not a sports person. You could have easily got like a sports ambassador, but you're getting
Yeah.
someone else who looks like they're enjoying the brand,
Yes.
and they're wearing it even outside of
Yeah.
like when you're paid to do it. I
Yeah.
think that's like the best kind of partnerships you want to have.
That remind me of I think a while ago, Jennifer Lopez was like the spokesperson for Coach, the bag, the brand, right? And I remember someone says she does not wear this outside
Yeah.
the advertising, and it's just such, and it stayed with me in terms of that. Your consumers are skeptical too. Like our listeners right now should be skeptical. Also, it's like, why are they even having this conversation? Why does Susan, who runs a fractional HR consultancy, and wants to talk to VJ, who runs a creative agency, like why are they having this conversation, right? And I think the reality is that the future of work is thinking about our experiences being impacted from all these things around. I don't want to sit here and have a podcast that talks about HR.
Yeah.
I think that's boring. I want to talk about people. I want to talk about different perspectives. But coming back to say, I think even for HR, we need to put on a little bit of a critical lens to talk about the things that's around us and understand how that impact people and the influence at work, right?
Yeah.
So, if I give you an HR question, coming back, you've seen different, you've been in different organizations in different countries, right? When we have this perception of whether tech is king, or to a certain extent, when you're in the creative agency, creatives the king. We all watch Mad Men. Some of those imbalance of power, those very different biases gets introduced in processes and conversations. In your experience, how you see these showing up?
I think, like you said, I'm going to speak through my experience and from my experience, right? I think in the advertising industry, I've seen and grew up in the industry where the creatives were king and they treated other people like shit.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that when I grew up as a creative. So when I took over creative departments, one of the things I always said, like, we cannot gatekeep creativity. Creativity is in every department and every person, because I think if you're in finance, if you're in HR, sometimes you think creatively and you think out of the box to solve your problem
Absolutely.
in your department.
Yes.
So there was one brainstorm that I did in one of the agencies, and I brought in people from finance, like anyone is invited.
Yes.
I think we are not going to gatekeep creativity anymore.
Yes.
Gone are the days, that's like 1980s, whatever, Mad Men era, where creative was special. Is not anymore. Like I think great ideas come from anyone and everyone. So I invited everyone, and the best person, the person who gave the best idea for that brainstorm, didn't come from the creative department. And I enjoyed that because it was a point I wanted to prove to the creatives that, you can't gatekeep creativity. And I would always advise the same, even with tech. Sometimes the best idea might come from someone in HR or someone in finance, even because they think of the problem and they think of a solution that's very different than what a tech person would think. So suddenly you have, oh shit, I never thought of it this way. I think that's quite interesting. Like, I could have solved this person, because they are also users of the product, or they are also, but in a different way, not like you, right? You're trying to solve your tech problem, but they are trying to solve, or they're trying to come out something that makes their life easier.
Yeah.
And because of that, it's much better than your solution, right? So I think you can't gatekeep it. You can't make one department or one kind of role important. I think everyone needs to feel that they're part of something bigger. And because of, if you try to do that, I think the whole company or the whole product or the whole app or whatever, that thrives when everyone feels that, oh, my contribution is seen in this company.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to give the best solutions, because I'm not swept away in the corner, in the closet or somewhere.
Absolutely. And quite frankly, coming from HR, very often it feels like we're on a lower rank, compared to the product, even the creatives, or even broader strategic functions.
But that's wrong, though.
Right?
I feel it is in a lot of places, but we need to change that, because
Yes.
HR is the operating system of any company. and it is the culture driver. And if you don't drive culture, people are not going to enjoy working in that place. For me, culture is very important. I know it's such a overused word.
It's a buzzword.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
buzzword or overused word, but it is so important that you build with the right people and the positive mindset among all the departments. You can
Yeah.
build great culture, which equates to good work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always define culture as the worst behavior that you would tolerate. Not all the nice things you do is the one bad behavior you tolerate. And going back to when we put too much emphasis on a particular part of organization, especially in a tech startup where tech feels like they're the king, the tech
You're building the wrong
department,
kind of culture.
right?
Yeah.
That is where some of these start showing through. So part of breaking that, I'm seeing how we're democratizing work and talent and creativity and innovation strategy through fractional. Right. I know that you've started your own fractional. I've started my own fractional company with that foundation of how do we, make strategic element of our work much more accessible. I don't see it so much on the tech side.
Yeah, I think it needs to kind of change. Like you said, you don't see it too much on the tech side, but slowly I'm working with quite a few tech brands and brands early on, and coming in as a fractional role to build that personality, brand personality and brand purpose very early on, and then I will leave for a while so that they can build the product and the brand up, and then come back in to then bring it to life. I think people are slowly kind of okay. This is me predicting, um, and I could totally be wrong, and I could be just talking a lot of shit here. But I think a lot of people in the current climate are going to lose their jobs, and everyone has different skill sets. But instead of joining bigger companies, a lot of people are going to open smaller, different niche capabilities, and people are going to cross collaborate with all these different people. Hence, there will be more fractional roles or requirements from different people, because this specialty used to sit in a big company, but now they're all independent and free from that because like the same as me, like I could have gone and joined an advertising agency and lived a good easy life, but I wanted to try this because I predicting that this is going to happen, that skill sets are going to be separated into small different groups. And right now I'm working on a global campaign where in my agency days, everybody would have been, the whole company of like 100 to 300 people would have done that. I might not have had the speciality and the ability in my team to do certain things, but now I can customize and pick the best people who are good at different things to come together and create like this Avengers of like different superheroes with different abilities to solve the problem in a better way than being forced in a company of 300 people where your talent might be not the greatest, but you're just trying to solve it because you need the money for the company.
Yeah.
But here we got the solution and the right talent to solve it, and it's all fractional and cross collaborating with different skill sets.
Yeah.
It is going to change and become more like that, right?
But people are skeptical about fractional still right
sure.
now, right? And I do see a bigger advancement on marketing, branding side of things. I think is really taking hold on some of these core functions, even finance. Actually, we're seeing a lot more traction. Less so on the HR side, right? We hear there's a lot of people say HR as a function has a branding problem, and then of course, then you add the fractional movement on top of it, it's even harder. So let me ask you, I'll put you on the spot. How would you, if you're going to make fractional HR connect to our audience, what would you do as a branding guru?
I would just, honestly, for me, it's real human stories and real examples, right? I would, if you are doing it for someone, and that someone needs to go out and tell the story to other people, right? It's the most basic. Testimonials is the most basic and boring piece of advertising, but people believe they're friends, and people believe another person who's done that role before. If someone on LinkedIn talks about what difference you as a fractional HR person has done to their organization, because that's what you're hired to do, and you're just there for a short while, so you want to make the most impact in that short while, so you make differences, you make really different calls and important calls because you come in a kind of like a helicopter view of things. I'm looking at it, a bigger picture. I think this is wrong, change this, change this. Where else someone who's working there might not bring out all the problems. They'll be
Yeah.
like, oh shit, I don't want to rock the boat.
There's
And
a
I don't
lot
want to
more
get
power
fired.
dynamic internally, right?
So it's
Yeah.
very different, and that becomes then water cooler talk, like I said, or something on LinkedIn that this person actually came and did this, and other people are going to see that and it's like, oh shit, okay, actually it is going to make a difference. I need someone like that. So it becomes, I guess, someone passing the torch to
Yeah.
someone else, and hopefully with me as well. So like I'm trying, I'm doing this few other free projects with different brands, and they go on and start telling about me, like, man, this guy made a difference. We brought him in as a fractional chief creative officer or whatever, creative director, and he made a difference to the brand.
Yeah.
And you guys need to hire someone like that as well, or you all need to hire. And then hopefully more people like me appear, and I think it's just building a new ecosystem, right?
I'm so glad you didn't say social hijacking on LinkedIn. But so my closing question for you, though, right? And again, I love putting you on the spot. That is what the Skeptic and the Change Game Changer is about. Is LinkedIn is going through their own very interesting evolution. As someone who's been on the platform for a long time, it's just not about algorithm. I think it's just the world is changing. The conversation is changing. It's very different. People are confused. Is this a professional platform? Why does it feel a little bit TikTok-y? But we want people to be authentic. So we're seeing authentic self. It is Facebook. If you are the creative director for LinkedIn, what are some of the advice that you would give to them to maybe consolidate some of these things, right? To make it I don't want to say to make them cool again, but how do we make them truly relevant and integrated and not just about exposure and sales? People feels like it's a platform you have to be on to sell. So
I have to say, I mean, before answering that question, which I don't know if I can answer, I have to say that I built my business on LinkedIn. Like I
a
started
lot of people
this,
say that. A
yeah,
lot of people say that. And so do I.
It really works for me.
Yeah.
Like every time I post something, I get a new client.
Yeah.
So I am very. So you can wield great power on LinkedIn.
Yep.
But people will use it or misuse it or abuse it differently.
Yeah.
There are some people who just go and blast every day.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this, sign up for this, pay for this, and after a while you get kind of bored and turned off by that. And I do that. I say, I don't believe this person. Like every day there's something. But if you use it smartly and just be like we spoke about authentic, like tell real stories and like someone told me before, like, oh, don't air your problems on LinkedIn, just show success because people want to see success. And I'm like, I think that's bullshit, man. Like, I want to talk about my problems too because I want to hopefully connect with other people or learn from someone who had similar problems. I don't want to just portray success on LinkedIn and just show that I'm successful because there's ups and downs. It's normal for anyone's career or business, right? Being authentic and being real and being yourself is more important than I just want to portray success on it, right? So LinkedIn, but you're right, like LinkedIn's kind of change. Like you've seen suddenly the short form videos, the vertical videos on it. I think it's good that they're trying different things.
Yeah.
They're not, some people try to turn it into TikTok and you unfollow these people if you want to. But some people are using it in the right way and talking about like things that you don't. Some people get bored of the long posts and they just want to watch a quick video. That's fine. Like I would always test and try different features, but for me the long form copy text only has worked really well. But along the way I've tried PDFs where you can scroll to the next page and see the videos and stuff like that. But my long text always gets a lot more numbers, and I would stick to that. But I would always advise, if I was the LinkedIn creative director, I would always appreciate innovation and new things because, like we said, you don't want to be stagnant. You want to try what's new because someone else might come in and kill you very quickly with the next thing. But if you don't be the first or don't try, you never know. Right. But at the same time, I think LinkedIn has a bit of a branding, like it stayed very quiet with the branding, I feel, when you can do there's so many powerful stories to tell about LinkedIn. People finding jobs, people finding their life partners. Maybe I don't know. There's
I'm
so many stories.
sure.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure
I've
there's
seen
stories
people
around out
use it
there.
like Tinder, which is quite funny. But there's so many stories, LinkedIn stories to be told,
Yeah.
and I don't see them telling it to the world. It's a wasted opportunity. I
They're
feel.
probably a great example of having a good enough product, clearly,
Yeah.
because, I think continue to have great interfaces and people are using it. They've got such a strong traction,
Yeah.
but potentially there's a storytelling opportunities,
Yeah, I
right?
think they're missing out a little bit on building that brand personality and purpose. But it's such a powerful tool for
So,
professionals. But yeah,
since we talk a lot about authenticity and wrapping up on this, what is your biggest challenge that you're facing as an entrepreneur?
I think the toughest is I think a lot of brands are used to having creative agencies. I'm going to speak in my field, right?
Yeah.
Creative agencies that are 200-300 people strong, and thinking that I need a big agency across the globe. They're gonna they're gonna do well for me because prestigious name. I'm gonna pay for that. And then along the way they discovered like, oh man, I paid so much money for this, and I'm not getting the best results. And for me, we only have two people in my company,
And your AI, so that's
and
three.
there's three of us. We have a million insights and data with the Chat GPT or Gemini. But yeah, I think people brand owners are skeptical at times, and for me, I'm out there to prove them that this 2 or 3 people can make a difference. But we are not 2 or 3 people. We are a collective of 2 to 5 to 10
Yes.
different people coming together
Yes.
to create world class or the best work for you, because that's the way the world is changing right now. So I'm out to just prove that I'm quite excited about doing this, that it's not the old school way of like I need a big name with like 100 to 300 people across the globe. I can do a global campaign, which I'm working on right now. I'm launching something in US and UK from Singapore, because I have people in different parts of the world, but it's just smaller groups of people in different
Yeah.
part of the world. And I'm quite excited about that. I think the world is changing, and I want to be at that forefront of whether it's fractional, whether it's cross collaboration, finding a collective of independence of freelancers and agents coming together to create the best work and handpicking those people.
Wonderful. And I think just in the spirit of sharing, I think for us, I think there's two things, right? I think one is also we talked about this branding issue of HR being strategic, right? Sometimes being full time is already hard enough to establish those strategic, connection and impact. How do we do that in a fractional way? So that continue to a conversation we're having. And I think a lot of us are educating the market, not just about fractional HR, but fractional in general as a way to deliver impact very differently. And then second is, as you continue to grow as an entrepreneur, is that you're growing also a company yourself, right? Starting to think about our internal operational excellence. How do we continue to make sure we are on top of our own innovation in the forefront of what we're doing are some of the challenges that I'm facing as an entrepreneur as well. But you're right. I think the future is fractional. The future is going to be very interesting, bright. It's not just about tech as king or creative as king. There's going to be much more infusion and collaboration of talents across. So with that, thank you so much, VJ, for joining us today on The Skeptic and the Game Changer. Thank you. And good luck with Bozy.
Thank you.